Hey everyone, it's Victor here again, and in today's lesson, we're going to look at how to create and manage sudo users in Linux. In one of our previous lessons, we discussed creating and managing users, touching on different types of users in Linux. Now, let's introduce another type of user, which is the sudo user. So, who or what is a sudo user? Sudo users are regular users elevated to run root level administrative tasks. This means you don't have to be the root user to perform administrative commands. As a sudo user, you can execute all commands a root user can, except you can restrict some commands if needed. To do this, you simply add sudo before any command. And the beauty of sudo is that it logs all commands for compliance and security purposes, crediting them to your name. So before we dive into making a regular user or a sudo user, let's quickly clarify the differences between the su and su dash command. I know that in the Learn Linux from Scratch series, I already mentioned what these are, but I need to go deeper a little bit. So don't worry, it's just going to be a little bit. So the SU command, short for switch user, is used when we need to switch to another user. And similar to other Linux commands, it offers various options tailored for specific purposes. And one of the options are the dash. Now let's look at the differences between using the su command and the su dash command. The difference between su and su dash commands revolves around the environment and environment variables. So the su command is used when we need to switch to another user account temporarily and want to retain our current environment. In essence, the su command allows one to maintain the current user environment when switching to another user account. And on the contrary, the option dash, which represents login shell, an option for SU, it is used when we aim to fully log in as another user and work within their environment. So using the dash argument forces the SU command to run the login shell for the specified user and changes the environment variables and working directly for the current user account to the specified user account that is logged onto. So this is called a full switch. So enough of all this talking. Let's practicalize everything we've said. So I am currently logged in as the EXE user. If I want to change user to Fola user, so I can say switch user to Fola, and I'm going to enter Fola's password, and I'm going to say enter. You can now see that I've been able to log in as the user Fola, and you can see here that I'm logged in as Fola at the host name, and you're seeing easy here because I am retaining my current user environment. And like we said that the su command is used to switch to another user account temporarily while you retain your own current environment. And in this case, I'm able to retain Easy's, or I as the Easy, I'm able to retain my home directory environment. So let's do something again. I'm going to exit out of Fola and I'm going to be logged in as Easy again. So you can just type exit to leave that user account. Now that I'm logged in as Easy again, so I can say Easy directory. I'm going to change user to Easy directory, and again I'm going to switch back to Fallout. So you can see that I am able to retain the current user environment. So and that's because I did not add the dash option. The su command will keep the user's environment variables and the current directory. Now we're going to do a full switch and we're going to add the dash option. So I'm going to exit, and now I'm going to do a full switch to Fola. I'm going to, oops, SU Fola. So I'm going to enter Fola's password. Now you can see that I've been able to log in as the user Fola, and I'm not keeping my current environment, which is easiest environment, any longer. And like we mentioned that the SU dash option will give you a full switch to that user account. You can also see that I'm now able to work in Fola's home directory or Fola's um, account directory or environment. So if I do ls, you can see that I'm able to see Fola's file. So I'm just going to clear my screen. And you should also know that if you do not specify a user account and you do SU, it will automatically take you to the root user account. So if I say enter, it's prompting me to enter the root password. So I can enter the password. Now you can see that I have been able to log in as the root user whilst I still keep Fola's user environment. And if I want to do a full switch like we talked, I can just say, or like we discussed, I can just say SU dash and I can enter the password. So you can see that I've been able to do a full switch to the root user account. Having understood this, let's talk about using the sudo su and the su command and their differences. The sudo su and su are executed to switch to another user account, often the super user. When using su, you need to know the target user's password, but the sudo su command asks you for your password and you'll be granted access if you have sudo privileges. So with sudo su, you not only switch to the desired user, but you would also gain high privileges granted by sudo. The sudo su command grants you temporary privileges to execute commands. If you run the sudo su command without mentioning a username, you will become the root user temporarily. Generally, sudo su is recommended for more control, and as I explained, for you to get a full switch, you will also run the sudo su dash command. So let's get to the step-by-step guide of how to create a sudo user, and you'll be able to understand all this that I have said. Currently, I am logged onto a Red Hat system. So what we're going to do first is to create a regular user. So I'm going to create a user called Putin, and then I'm going to password Putin. So I can put in the password. So now that I've been able to password Putin, for Red Hat system, for a user to be a sudo user, that user needs to be added to the wheel group. And before we even add Putin to the wheel group, let's see the sudoers file. So I can just cut the sudoers file. It is an etc sudoers. So if you look at this file, I'm just gonna scroll up here. So you can see that it's saying here that sudoers allow particular users to run various commands as the root user without needing the root password. So that is who a sudo user is. And if you scroll down, you would see different parameters here. So you can see the wheel group I was talking about here. So if a user is added to the wheel group, it means that you can see it's saying allows people in the group wheel to run all commands. So that's why you need to add a user to the wheel group if you want them to be a sudo user. To add the user to the wheel group, of course, we can use the command user mode and we can say -ag and I'm going to say wheel. Then I'm going to add Putin to the wheel group. Now, this means that Putin is now a sudo user. So I can log in as Putin. So I'm going to do a full switch, right? And now as the sudo user, if I try and list slash root, you can see that permission is denied. But if I add sudo to the beginning of my command and I say slash root, you can see that it's asking me for Putin's password. The system wants to verify that Putin is a sudo user. So I can say Putin, oh, this should be ls slash root, sudo ls slash root. So you can see now that I am able to list the files here, and that is because I am a sudo user, or rather Putin is a sudo user. And the good thing is that for the next 5 minutes, sudo will remember that you've been authenticated, so you will not be asked for the password again. And if I exit, let me exit, and let me do a full switch to Putin again, so you can see what I'm saying. And if I do ls or sudo ls slash root, you can see that I am not asked. The system did not prompt me for the password anymore. And like I said, that for the next 5 minutes, sudo will still remember that you've been authenticated. After 5 minutes, you're going to be prompted for the password. So I'm just going to clear my screen. Another thing you can do is that you can use sudo without a password. So let me show you this file. We just open the sudo as file. So if you come here, you can see that it's saying that same thing without the password here, meaning that you can allow people in groups will to run all commands, and you can also do the same thing without a password. And to do that, what you would do is to remove the comment here and then add the comment here. However, doing this is dangerous because it means that you're going to be giving all the users that are elevated to be sudo users, you're going to be giving them this privilege, meaning that whatever thing they execute, they will be able to execute it without the system prompting them for their password. But let me quickly show you how to do this. If you want to do this, so you can just do sudo vsudo, like I explained to you, or like I said that whenever you want to edit this file, you need to use the vsudo command to edit this file. I know it's somewhere here, but I don't know why I can't just find that comment here. Okay, you can see it's saying that this file must be edited with the vsudo command. So whenever you're editing the sudoers file, please use the vsudo command to do that. So if I say enter, I can search for wheel. So this is wheel. I can then add the comment sign here, and I'm going to remove the comment sign here so I can save this file. And what we're going to do now is to create another user and elevate the user to be a pseudo user. The reason is because I don't know if my 5 minutes time is still available, because if I execute with Putin, you know I want us to really understand this thing, and I don't want anything to conflict. So I'm just going to create another user. So I can say sudo user add. Let's create Putin2. So we're going to password Putin2, right? And then I'm going to put in the password, and now we can add this to the wheel group. Oops, this should be user modification. Okay, now we can switch user to Putin2. So I can enter the password for Putin2. So I'm going to execute that command again. So I can say ls slash root to list the content in the root home directory. I need to use sudo So you can see that now that I'm able to execute this command without the system prompting us for password. And like I said, this is very dangerous. It's not advisable to do this in your environment. You can actually, do this for a particular or for an individual user instead of doing this for all users. And I'm going to show you how to do that too. But before we do that, let's revert the settings back. So I'm going to search for wheel. Just going to revert this. So I can save this file now. So let's check this file again. So let me show you something here. Sudo cat slash etc slash sudoers Putin2. So if you look at this file here, you can see that it's saying that read dropping files from etc sudoers.d. So what it means is that you can create a drop-in file for individual users that you want to make sudo users. So you don't even need to necessarily add them to the wheel group. You can actually also create a drop-in file for individual users and they will become a sudo user. So the difference is that if you want them to run all commands without password, you use this parameter here. And if you want them to run all commands and you want the system to prompt them for password, you will use this command here. But because we don't want the system to prompt the sudo users for password, so I'm just going to copy the old command here and I'm going to create a drop-in file. So to do that, I will just say sudo, right, vi slash etc slash sudoers dot d. Then I'm going to put in the username. So let's create another user called Putin3. I'm going to create the user later, but let's just create the drop-in file for Putin3. So I'm going to drop the parameter here. And I'm just going to edit this. This is going to be Putin3, Putin3, and I'm also going to remove this hash sign so I can save this file. So I'm going to quickly add or create the user add Putin3. So I can say password Putin3, Putin3, Putin3. So let's add this user to the oops, okay, the user has already been added. Yeah, so we don't need to do this anymore. So I'm just going to switch user to Putin3 and I'm going to enter the password. So let's execute that command again. So ls slash root. So you can see that I can execute this command without the system prompting me for a password. And I also don't need to add Putin3 to the wheels group. I can actually create a drop-in file in the sudoers.d directory and that will make that user a sudo user. So we can then, if you want to switch user, right, as the sudo user, so I can just say sudo su to Putin 2, or I can do a full switch and say sudo su full switch to Putin 2. You can see that I'm able to enter Putin 2 straight away because I'm the sudo user and Putin because of the way we set Putin 3. Whenever we're executing sudo commands, it's not going to ask us to enter the password. And when we did sudo su dash Putin, we did a full switch to Putin 2 user directly without the system prompting us for a password. So you can use sudo su or sudo SU full switch. So that's that for the radar, folks. I want to say thank you for watching. And if you want to continue with the Ubuntu system, I'm going to see you at the other end. I am currently logged onto an Ubuntu system. So first, let's create a regular user and make that user a sudo user. So we're going to say add user. I'm going to create a user called Putin. So I'm going to give Putin a password and I'm going to say enter, 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 enter. Yes, enter. So the next thing we're going to do is to add the user to a sudo group. So for Ubuntu, to make a user a sudo user, you need to add the user to the sudo group. So let's see the sudoers file for Ubuntu system here. So if I say cat etc sudoers, you would see right from here we can see that this file must be edited with the vsudo command as root. So meaning that if you want to edit this file, you need to use the vsudo command to do that. And if you scroll down to, you will see that it's saying here that allow members of all group sudo to execute any command. And that means that that member or that individual user needs to be added to the sudo group, unlike Red Hat, which is the wheel group. So to do that now, we're going to add Putin to the sudo group. So I'm just going to say user modification a g is going to be sudo. I'm going to say Putin 2 or Putin rather. We created the user Putin. So this user now has been added to the wheel group. So if I say id Putin to the sudo group, I mean, you can see that Putin has been added to the sudo group. Now I'm going to do a full switch to Putin. So now I'm logged in as Putin. And what it means is that I can execute commands, right? Like the root user, and I'm going to say sudo. I'm going to list the content of the root home directory here. It's going to ask me for the password. I'm going to enter the password. So you can see that I'm able to list the content here. And also for the next 5 minutes, sudo will remember that you've been authenticated. So when you're trying to execute any other command, the system will not ask you for your password again for the next 5 minutes. And you can also, just like the radar system too, you can also use sudo without a password. And to do that, you'll need to create a drop-in file. If you look at this sudoers file here, yeah, so I'm trying to look for that comment that says you can create a drop-in file. Okay, I can't find it here. Okay, you can see, yeah, so you can see that it says include directory, which is etc sudoers.d. So meaning that I can create a drop-in file. And what it means is that I don't even need to add the user to the sudo group before that user can be a sudo user. I can actually create a drop-in file for that user and the user will become a sudo user. And I can also create a drop-in file for that user and you know I can also make the system not prompt the user a password whenever that user is executing an elevated command. So to do that, I'm going to create a drop-in file and I'm going to say vi. Okay, I need to add sudo. So sudo vi slash etc slash sudoers dot d slash. So I'm going to create a new user and I'm going to call the user Putin 2. Then I can say enter. So I'm going to, copy this parameter. Let me copy it. Let me go and do plagiarism from the Red Hat system. So I'm just going to copy this parameter here. Like I said, um this is when you don't want the system to prompt the sudo user a password, and this is when you want the system to prompt the sudo user a password, just like how we did it on the Red Hat system. So I'm just going to copy this here because this is not on the Ubuntu system. So I'm going to come here and paste this here, and also this needs to be the username Putin2. I'm going to remove this comment sign here so that it can be activated. And I can say enter. Now I can create the user. So I can say sudo add user Putin2, Putin2, Putin2. Enter, 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 enter. Yes. So I'm going to do a full switch to the user Putin2. So I'm going to say Putin2. So right now I'm going to try and list the content, and I'm going to say list slash root. So you can see now that I'm able to list the content here without the system prompting me for the root, for the Putin2 password. And you can also see that it is another way of adding a user or making a user a pseudo user. So like I said, you don't have to necessarily add that user to the pseudo group. You can also then, do your sudo su thing, sudo su to, let's say, Putin. And if you also want to do a full switch to Putin, so you can say sudo su dash Putin. And if you say enter, you can see that you've logged in to the Putin user and without the system prompting you for the sudo password. So this is how you can, navigate your way around being a sudo user or not a sudo user. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section below, right? And I want to say thank you for watching. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share, comment. When you do this, you encourage us to do more of those videos. And I'll see you in the next lesson. So bye for now.